Chapter 2. The gallery was full to capacity, each person dressed to the gills in some of their best attire. An hour before the show, I took a cab home to change into a little black dress that showed off just the right amount of thigh through a slit at the right leg. I wore a lot of blacks, mostly because it went together fabulously with my pale skin and auburn hair, which hung in loose curls around my face and past my shoulders. The dress was strapless, starting in a sweetheart neckline, ending so that it hovered over the floor. I also wore my favourite heels, my Louboutin, that I wore to all of our functions. Every time I wore them, we sold every painting, which led me to believe they were my good luck charm, even though I really didn't need the shoes to sell an artist's work. All it really took was my flirty smile and the love for the work itself. Men with big wallets were easiest to do this with. If women hold no power, why do men do anything for us to try to get us in their beds? I typically tried to stay away from alcohol during a gallery showing, but the stress of the prior events, as well as the frustration surrounding this show in particular, made me crave the relief of the elixir. A couple of paintings had somehow been left in the back of the truck, and I had to call the deliverers to get them to come back with them, which they nearly refused to do. Now, I slipped on red wine, trying not to spill on anything as I made my way around the gallery floor, watching spectators as they viewed the work of Syra. She was a fantastic artist, so I was confident they would sell, and they would sell well. Is someone nervous tonight? Lauren's voice drifted from behind me. I turned to her and was shocked to see her in a crimson dress that stopped mid-thigh, exposing not way too much leg, and almost uncovering something not meant to be seen in public. Think your dress is short enough? I quipped. I'm going to try not to take that personally, she answered as she waved a hand, taking a glass of white wine from a tray that the waiters carried around the room. You need to loosen up. I tipped the glass in her direction. Hence the wine in my hand, dear. No, that's not the kind of loose I meant, she giggled as she took a sip of her wine, eyes never leaving me once as I took her words. She wasn't being subtle about what she thought I needed, and while I did agree, I'd made it next to impossible to sleep with anyone just to enjoy the act of sex itself. She stirred inside me, and I knew that this was her way of telling me that I needed to indulge in her urges, whether I wanted to or not, or suffer the consequences. I knew all too well what that meant. It would happen either way if I refused her or gave in. You might be right. I glanced around the room, pretending to look at each and every man within a 20-foot radius. We'll see how that goes. I looked at Lauren and grinned, taking another swallow of the warm, deep red wine. The place was full of people of all ages, but most hovered around their late 20s to mid-40s, with men and women equally dispersed within the group. Not a single individual I was attracted to jumped out at me, making me believe this would be a long night, where the only people I'd have to talk to were Lauren, Hannah, and Syra. Unless I spotted someone interested in purchasing. They were great company, but not exactly what I was looking for, and especially not what Hyde was looking for. I'd previously tried the celibacy bit, but that did nothing to tie Hyde down. After Dax's death, I was having difficulty coming to grips with what I was and the fact that I would never find happiness and the contentment because of her. What could I do besides give in to her urges to calm her every now and then? Nothing. I learned that lesson all too well, and learned it fast. She was on the prowl, and I felt her rolling inside me, purring insistence at male companionship. Did I want to give in? Absolutely not. Did I want to kill and maim yet another man? No. Did I want to have some fun too? Yes. Why, yes, I did. Unfortunately, I'd got to tag along, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. That bothered me. But I couldn't fix it. She was attached to me, to my soul. It was the small amount of information that I learned not only from my parents, but my own inner demon. What else was there that I needed to know? What other information could I divulge from those around me? Siren knew more than she had told me during our first meeting, and I would get more out of her one way or another. I just wasn't sure how yet. Blythe, dear, I heard Hannah's voice bellow from behind me, drifting through the space as if the wind carried it to my ears. I turned to find her walking toward me in a lovely sky blue dress that accentuated her curves in all the right places. There was a glass of the same red wine in her hand that I had in mine. But she wasn't alone. Emmett Adler followed close behind her, filled with stunning grace and power, his brown eyes roaming over me in one quick motion. You could see the predatory power moving underneath his suit jacket as he walked. My breath caught in my throat, and my hand went to my chest on instinct as I took a very deep swallow from the remainder of my glass to calm the buzzing energy running rampant throughout my body. It was simply how I found myself reacting to his stare alone. Hyde thrummed at the edge of my consciousness. I shook my head and attempted to ignore her, which didn't do much good at all. Another swig of the wine would have to do, and its slightly woody taste and aroma seemed to dampen her a bit. Hannah. Hi, I greeted. I wrapped my arms around her in a soft embrace, making sure I didn't spill any wine on her dress. I would have hated to be the one to ruin it, even though Hannah could afford to dry clean it, or buy another. Not like I couldn't afford to do it for her. Blythe, you look incredible as always. Her eyes scanned over me, and a grin spread across her lips. Her glance then shifted to Emmett at her side. As you know, this is Emmett Adler. And Mr. Adler would like to speak to you about seeing more of his work for another showing. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. The unspoken promise in the note he left with the painting for me to find when I unwrapped it was something all of us must have imagined. Hannah included. Though the thought didn't stop the humming within my body, causing my knuckles to vibrate with it. My face flushed as I held my hand out toward him, expecting a handshake, since this would be a business transaction, obviously. Sure, I'd love to. And then I realized he hadn't actually asked, and blushed again. I was getting ahead of myself as usual, and I normally didn't blush either. There was something about Emmett that made me act like a damn teenager. I'll leave you to talk. Hannah said as she walked away, making her way to Lauren, who had walked away when I wasn't paying any attention. She was now off with Syra, whose shock of pink hair made her stick out like a sore thumb. It definitely took the attention off of the little pink number she was wearing, which was a shame because it was stunning on her. I pulled my attention from her and back to the handsome man in front of me. He was more beautiful than I remembered. His dark brown eyes were deep and penetrating. His smile was broad, lighting up his entire face. "Thank you for the paintings," I said. It was the first thought to cross my mind. He waved his hand in a dismissive motion and replied, "No need to thank me. I wanted you to have them." Mind me asking why? The question hung in the air between us, almost causing me to think he hadn't heard me ask it. He took in a deep breath and smiled even wider, his eyes lighting up with it, but he didn't answer. Never mind, you don't have to tell me." I took another sip of the wine, and it felt warm throughout my body from the inside out, the slight buzz working its way through my system. "I'd rather show you, but first things first," he said as he took a step closer to me, his fingers caressing mine. I froze. I couldn't breathe. Then his hand closed around the glass in my hand. "You need more wine." I let the glass slip from my fingers and watched him walk over toward a waiter, placing my empty glass on the tray and removing 2 full ones from it. He made his way back with a colossal grin on his face that I feared couldn't even be slapped off. His perfect white teeth gleamed in the lights, while his brown eyes smouldered. The smile was adorable, but his eyes spoke of only sensual encounters. They burned me up from the inside out. But I needed to keep it professional. The most unsettling thing about this entire experience with Emmett so far was that Hyde was completely silent within the seconds of Hannah's introduction. No rolling, no purring, no complete takeover. I was still me. With a quiet sigh of relief, I took the glass from him. Our fingers grazing, electricity ran through my hand and into my gut, almost causing me to gasp. I held on to the impulse and choked it down. "So, what do you want to do beside this?" Did I want to tell him about my extracurricular activities? Absolutely not. But what did I tell him? That I was a club hopping slut with homicidal alter ego? The truth, even coming from me, stung quite a bit. This situation would require the entire glass of wine Emmett had handed me, but I settled for a delicate sip instead. Considering that we were and who we were around, I had a feeling chugging the entire glass would be a problem. "Well, not much of anything, really. I'm actually quite boring." That would be good enough. Emmett moved into me, his chest grazing my bare arm as he inhaled slightly. His breath was sweet, like the white wine he had undoubtedly been drinking before deciding to switch to red while speaking to me. "I'd bet you're not as boring as you think you are." "You don't look like the boring type," he said as I turned my head just slightly to look into his eyes. "Looks can be deceiving," I replied. I took a hesitant step back, this situation feeling more intimate than I was comfortable with in such a public setting. What was it about Emmett Adler that had my heart hammering away in my chest like it was trying to break out of prison? Do you really think this is the right place to have this kind of conversation? Oh, and a ballbuster, I see, he joked as he took a step backward. The laughter reached his eyes, making them sparkle with it. He took a large swig of the wine in his hand and winked at me. Mr. Adler, are you hitting on me? No. I just want you to come over and take a look at my paintings, that's all. I swear. He raised his hand in the traditional Scout's honour way and smiled. Uh-huh. Why don't I believe you? It's my irresistible wit and charm. Well, you do have that in spades. Emmett took another step toward me, and I felt myself flush. Yes, I had a few drinks. Yes, I was nearly so buzzed my body couldn't help but react to him without my permission. Yes, I was attracted to him, and his sense of humour only helped that along. My gut clenched again, and warmth began to spread outward from there, moving to a place the man hadn't even touched. I have more paintings where that last one came from, he whispered. My knees quivered slightly at the mere mention of the painting of me in such a way he had never seen before. To be honest, he probably would sometime soon if he kept this up. Oh, the word came out in a soft, barely audible exhale. Yes. I felt his answer slither up my spine, ricocheting back down to my legs and turning them into unset jello. Or was that the wine? Then I felt eyes on me. Someone watching me besides the gorgeous man in front of me. I turned to find Lauren, Hannah, and Syra watching us with large grins on their faces, like creepy versions of the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. They averted their eyes as quickly as they could once they realised I had spotted them, causing me to roll my own in response. They apparently planned this entire thing, and whether Emmett knew it or not was a mystery I didn't care to solve. All I knew was how my body and Hyde reacted to him. My body was awake, like an exposed nerve, and while Hyde was absent. I had to admit it was an odd sensation. The complete and utter absence of her was nerve-wracking, causing my anxiety to peak. I weakly smiled at Emmett and took another sip of wine. Do you send inappropriate paintings like that to the workplace of every girl you like? Another swallow. He shook his head and looked down at the ground, the smile still plain on his face, but a little more sheepish now than it had been. No, he answered, looking back up at me. Just the ones that I feel are worth the trouble. An awkward and tension-filled silence took over before he felt the need to fill it. Which one of these is your favourite? Would you believe me if I told you that I love them all? I asked. I would. I tried to ignore the clenching happening in places I didn't even know existed, the heat rising in my face from that and the wine. It was now my third glass of the stuff, and I knew that I would continue to drink as long as the people kept handing me glasses. I silently promised myself this would be the last one. Which is yours? I repeated the question to him. I didn't ask because he had shown an interest in me. I was genuinely curious. Someone's favourite piece of art said a lot about them as a person, and I wanted to know so much more about him. Subjectively or objectively? I pondered that for a second. Subjectively, I want your opinion. He grinned broadly and looked around the room, taking a drink from the glass in his hand as he inspected each painting from afar. I could practically hear the gears turning inside his head as he thought carefully about his choice. He brought his fist up to his mouth, holding it there while he pondered. Then it was like a light bulb turned on, and he turned to a painting I didn't think he'd like at all. I wasn't sure why I believed that, but I did. I shouldn't have even been surprised it was the largest painting inside the gallery, nearly taking up the entire wall. This one, he said, taking some wine into his mouth and swishing it around slightly as he stared at it. Did you model for these? The resemblance is uncanny. I shook my head and said, No, I'm not a model. Not by any means. I stared at the painting and could understand why he would think that. Why anyone would. The model was the same as in the first painting of Cyrus I had seen. And just like all the others, the subject was a woman with red hair, one green eye, and one brown. Human heart in hand, but she was facing the viewer. She was close up, holding the heart out to an unknown subject, possibly the artist, possibly the admirer, with blood-coated lips and crimson running down the front of a white shirt. I hadn't even taken a good look at this one, but it made me breathless. Oh, wow, I breathed, staring into the eyes of the woman on the canvas. Perfectly gorgeous. I know. You whispered into my ear. Come see my work this weekend. Anytime. You're always welcome, Miss McAllister. Hopefully, we can work something out. Then he walked away, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the gigantic piece of art in front of me. There was no need to ask where he lived. I remembered perfectly. I would see him this weekend, no matter what.